All right. Up next we have Amici, who wants to talk about his game Golden Hands, Agent of Change, and his time in life here at Spelkollektivet, how it influenced him and how it helped him grow. I know you have to slowly go. Ta-da! Give it up for Amici.
So yeah, thank you. This talk, sorry if it goes on for a little bit, but I'm going to talk about my time here, which has almost been a year, and I want to talk about my personal growth here and the growth of my game and what I'm doing with the project and my life in general, which has been a lot. There has been a lot of development. So let's get started. First, I want to just do like a little bit of prelude and talk about the game, because I talk about it so seldom that I think a lot of people, particularly you there, probably have a little idea about which game this is. So, what is my game about? You play any person using the tools of the 21st century life to bring about as much happiness in a large, connected, and dynamic world. That is the game in one sentence, using commas. You can be a scientist, politician, entrepreneur, humanitarian. That's a typical paths you can follow to kind of achieve this. You build your own character to become motivated, capable, and resourceful. So it's sort of like focused on building yourself as well. And you can use social connections and organizations in the game to expand your capacity and resources. So it's sort of like you're managing yourself, you're managing organizations, and you're trying to use these together to develop into kind of like this machine for creating a better world. My game is about being an agent of change, someone wholly dedicated to making a better world. That's what my game is about. Now, the history of my game is that I started with this engine. At least that's where I choose to start, or else this discussion will really be long. But I started with this engine, this thing, which is like the first thing I talked about when I came here and had this first SGDC that I had last year. And it was called BAWOO, which stands for Background World. And it was a code library and was supposed to be this engine, this great thing that was going to make. It was going to be the holy grail of content creation. So what was it? I described it in one sentence on my website as a software engine for simulating societies in games. And what did I promise with this engine? Everything! It was going to be open source. Anyone could use it. Of course, anyone. Simulate any society. Creating and expanding content was going to be trivial. AI was going to be handled. Serialization, or saving and storing stuff, was going to be handled. Everything was going to be handled. But what did I deliver? Pain! Endless, confusing pain! And which of course was, thousands upon thousands of lines of unusable code and meaningless optimizations. Like on GitHub, they registered that I've been posting some 20 to 30,000 lines of code on, and that was just the ones that I had uploaded via Git. So it was big and it was ugly. So. I feel like the product, the thing that led to this was kind of a little bit, had to do with, I think, a phase that many programmers go through early on. It's a little bit a naivety and idealism. As we learn stuff, we tend to get caught up in something. So how did this come to this? I have never finished a game before, never made an engine. I didn't even finish computer science because it was boring. I had no experience with how the end result would look like or work. And I didn't even fully know what the game was going to be. Like, I had vague ideas, but I was kind of like trying to make an engine about something I had vague ideas about. And even when I tried to like make something clear about the end vision, it was still just scribbles on a paper. Even if I had a lot of those scribbles, it was still just things in my head. I didn't have any experience to go by, so it was all kind of like, you stumble and fall along the way. So I stopped at some point. And the reason for this was I was applying for Kickstarters, grants, trying to get investors, and I did get an investor of sorts. I did not get a grant. My Kickstarter was a complete failure. And for these things, I kind of need to demonstrate something. And Bavo didn't really demonstrate anything. It was just, as I said, it was thousands upon thousands of lines of unusable code. It was constantly in a state of just being a shell of what it needed to be. I need to be able to explain things briefly, and whenever I started talking about Bavo, an hour passed by and the person kind of just left. Or tried to leave. Sometimes they couldn't escape. You need to give other people a sense of clarity, because many times I've been able to kind of impress people with my talk about Bavo, but nobody seems to like come off kind of entirely understanding how it works, what it does, or something. And so there was nobody who had any clear idea. And how would you support something which you don't really have a clear idea about? Even if it sounds impressive, it's just it's pomposity almost. So. I needed to also kind of show rational motivations, and I don't think I really had them. Like Bavo, I could explain to you why Bavo was necessary, but if you talk to somebody in the industry, they might not say that it was important. They might not say that this is a way to go about. They might suggest another way. I didn't have any good basis to base for my motivations. My motivations was mostly this idealism and this naivety about how easy it is to do stuff in coding. So I cannot demonstrate, I cannot easily explain, briefly explain, I cannot make things clear, or I cannot show rational motivations for this project. So the project was nonsensical. That's kind of what where I ended up in the end concluding with. Even though when I stopped with it, I kept on for a little bit of time, but in the end, when I look back at it, this is kind of what I have to conclude. And so I went from that project, and then I was going to build a prototype. Of course, we were going to ask for a grant. And it became this, what I call the impossible prototype. This is perhaps what you remember. Maybe some of you remember seeing me showing you this. This is from the video I created, which was like 3 minutes long, where you could see the kind of way I was thinking about making the UI. So here in the background, you can notice there's this big empty white space, and you can kind of close the menu. But why is that white space there? This was kind of my original inspiration for that artwork. This was made in the earliest phases. It was made even before I had a company. I got some people from Poland to design this. And I was trying to the game I wanted to make at that time was this thing here in the center. This was going to be a 3D scene, which is going to be kind of like a metaphor. There's going to be several things there, maybe like a miniature buildings, etc. But lots of stuff that was going to be metaphors for things in the real world, which is kind of like a way to say that I wanted to have a 3D world, but I couldn't. I knew that I couldn't afford enough 3D modelers, etc., to make something like an open world. So what the next best thing is to have this metaphor. And I was trying to be innovative and stuff, trying to do things in a new way. So this was like 2018. But what was I making? In the thing, you can use the arrow keys to go back, right? Yeah. So in the things I was making here, the player could inspect things or people. That's what you can see down there. They could see the schedule, which was the thing on the left side. They could invest in with will to happiness, which was kind of like a motivation, like a resource. And they could pause, change speed of time, etc. So there was a bunch of things they could do like this. And this had this 3D background scene, which I at some point decided that I definitely won't be able to afford 3D, but I could possibly afford a 2D scene, right? A 2D scene which is kind of like the same thing, like there's going to be animations, there's going to be graphics changing all the time, etc. And then I had kind of like a reality crash. I have no skills in drawing, and I don't really take much pleasure in drawing, because the one things I want to draw is not the things that I can draw. And I don't have any artists. I know a bunch of artists, but I don't really have anyone who would want to be that I know want to be on my team. And so I was kind of left alone with this, and I basically only had the skills in programming, a little bit and narrative, etc., but no drawing. And I wanted to have a game with a bunch of 3D models at some point, or the 2D drawings, but not the resources. So, but I was making a graphics-based game. Also, the game had too many metaphors and just too much mess in general, which the people who got to try out this UI that I made. This thing, when it was in kind of like its end result, in the sense that you can call it an end result, some people tried it, and it became very clear very quickly that it was very confusing, the stuff that I had made. Like too much metaphors and just a lot of mess. For instance, this thing on the left here, this schedule, was constantly changing and making it very difficult to people to kind of understand what was going on there. So yeah. So yeah, well, now we're taking a sidestep to talk about what I will call the forgotten purpose that I had, because I had a purpose to making this game 2+ years ago when I thought about it. There was something I wanted to do, but along the way I kind of forgot a little bit about that, because I got drawn into the games industry and I met all the people at university and things kind of developed, and I started to got shaped by the surroundings that I was part of. So I was asking myself the question, what do I really care about? And the thing is that I care about philosophy. Philosophy is my real passion. And this thing on the right there, this which is like a snapshot of the original UI that I was going to do, is like, that isn't really what I care about. I don't really care about this specific thing, that it's like this. The thing I want to do is philosophy. I also want to do games, but philosophy is primary, so why make it difficult for myself to make games the way I need to make them, by doing philosophy? So I also asked myself the question, kind of like, who am I? My purpose in life. Then my purpose in life is to explore, and to communicate a philosophy and science of human needs. That's what I really care about. I care deeply about human needs. And I want to explore that, and the games is just a way I chose to express it. I'm a philosopher, and games allow me to express philosophy. I'm a philosopher who makes games. That's my new sentence. I'm not a game developer, I'm a philosopher who makes games. So, along this way, considering this purpose that I have in life, I have done some grave sins. Like, I should get out the flagellation thing and just like slap. I've sinned so much. I've been depraved. So I was fetishizing a game solution. Bauer was my fetish. I was getting obsessed with this, like, how do I do things? And I was like, oh, this is a cool way to do things. Let's just do that. And I did it with all my passion and all my creativity, etc. And I just shouldn't have done that, because that wasn't really what I wanted. It wasn't really part of my purpose, why I did this to begin with. It was just, I got drawn into the environment of computer science and all that stuff, and I started to think about that stuff too much. And I was overvaluing appearance over substance, which was this rich 3D, 2D background. Like, I don't need it to express philosophy through games. So why make it difficult for me by having it? And I had kind of an obsession with impressing in the design or programming innovations. Like, I wanted to do things in a new way because it was new and because new was cool. Yeah, it was just an unhelpful obsession, I think, trying to come off as impressive in what I did. But even if I did manage to create some innovations, it was, in the end, it was kind of, what's the point, right? If people don't understand it, if people can't use it efficiently, if the thing that I want to do with my games, which is express philosophy, if that isn't come through with this, what's the point of doing those innovations? So, metaphorical and technical obscurity born from insecurity. I was kind of insecure about myself and my role in the game developer world, so I started to do these too many metaphors, and technical obscurity was kind of like Bavo stuff. Not being true to myself. So, I've been reborn. I came to Spelkollektivet a different person. Now I've been reborn, and I'm sent out of this place. Like, you're in the stomach of a woman for like 9 months or something. That's roughly the time I've been here. So this period has basically been the stomach of my new mother. And I'm about to be delivered into this world. So, how do they get to this new path? I've been learning from my environment, and my environment is you guys. My homies have guided me little by little. I have listened to you. I have discussed with you. I have observed you. I have played with you. I've shared and experienced almost a year with you. You were like a dozen little Buddhas, each offering an occasion or piece of wisdom. And this has kind of given me a new attitude. Philosophy first! My game is for expressing philosophy. Ah. And what do philosophy do? There's going to be deep questions. Exploring perspectives, creating new ways of thinking. My game should also be a game that I can make, because if I go again and try to create this game that I'm going to make, which requires talent and resources that I don't have, then I'm just going to be depressed and I can't make the game, and I'm just going to have like a miserable time and not going to accomplish much. So I need to make a game that I can make, all alone if need be. Although there's probably at some point, I could pay somebody to do something, but I need to consider that I might be able to just have to do it all alone. And this game, it needs to have clarity and directness, not obscurity and not complexity, because sometimes I might have been a little bit complexity for complexity's sake. And, all the other stuff that I've been talking about. If I am going to have non-obvious stuff, because I'm going to have that, philosophy is, many people who have acquainted philosophy at some point, you probably have seen that it contains a lot of stuff that is non-obvious. And there's often a deeper point to that. So on the same thing with the game, like, it's okay to have something that's non-obvious, but in that case, there needs to be a deeper point to it. Like, don't just have it there because you can do it. And there needs to be a deeper point to anything that is complex in the game as well. I need to be able to justify it somehow. So that said, I'm just ending this a little bit with some new. These are like drawings that I made just to kind of give an idea about the new direction I want for my game. As you can see, there's no background here really. I try to just put in focus the things that I can do something with. So this is like an entirely UI game. I'm also like trying to stick to some standards, like you have the hamburger menu there at the top, which gives you like the main menu and stuff like that. And you know, I've made things bigger, try and fit everything on a screen, like give the player some ability to focus on the things they're doing without having a million different menu options all over the place. So this is going to be like where the player can kind of inspect stuff. So this is themselves, they can see at the bottom here. And this is the thing they are inspecting, which could be many things, including people, places, whatever. This is the new schedule. The last schedule, which I briefly mentioned, is the one that, you know, this was constantly changing. It was just a list there on the left. And I thought that instead of having this schedule and also like try and contain it a little bit, there's going to be a weekly schedule. So every day at midnight, you know, the 7 days into the future, they make some plans for that 7th day. And that way you can have like a weekly schedule at any point, which shows you like your week. And there won't be any more in the future than that. And the game gets, you know, much easier to make and much easier for the player to kind of like see, oh, this is what's going on, then there. And this is going to be a little place where you can like click on, for instance, procrastinating and see a lot of the details from that. And this is like going to be like the search result. You have like a filter here where you can filter the different kinds of stuff. And you can get these little boxes. Like I didn't explain those boxes. So those boxes are kind of like what's in the sign language called cards. They are little reusable UI elements which contain a snippet or like a brief description of the thing in question. For instance, a building. And whenever I talk about this building, or quote-unquote talk about this building other times in the game, I can show this little thing. And if the player wants to know more about it, they can click on it and inspect it. So this is like a way to give me a more reusable UI, which means that there's less work for me. And I also kind of standardize things because everything is kind of fit into this little box. So people, nations, everything can kind of have this box representation, which makes things just a lot easier to deal with. And, you know, there's going to be a little bit of dialogue opportunities here, but just a little bit, because I have some narrative strengths and I want to employ those. But of course, I can't do that too much. So I'm trying to just, you know, use some standard ways of doing this thing. Again, trying not to innovate. Just do things a boring and very predictable way, which a player can easily understand how to use it. This is another one. Here, there's not really anything to do, but you can kind of use this to kind of like here we get a little bit of text, which highlights some of the important things about the place that you are viewing, this is kind of like a generated text. So it takes the most important components of describing this place and puts them into one text so that you can kind of like get an idea of it, instead of just looking at all the data. Yeah, that is my journey. My long journey. I will be leaving next week on Tuesday. So this is my last SGDC. Maybe I'll see some of you at some point later in life, but who knows? Bye.
This is a rage quit now? You're like running out of the door now?
No, I'm gonna sit and watch the last person. Yeah, questions?
I have a question from the chat here.
Yeah.
How long have you been programming?
Technically, I started learning programming like 10 years ago, but I didn't do much programming, so more like 6-7 years, more like that. But mostly off, sometimes on.
Another question here. Why did you not pair up with an artist?
Well, it's just I'm not very good with people. Like I know how to play a crowd, but I'm not really that good with people and establishing the kind of social relations that would require. So it's just that it's difficult to find someone. And even if I did find someone, it's if you invest a lot of yourself and time, energy, and emotions into a person, you kind of get a little bit scared that they will leave at some point. And so even though I could probably find someone on the internet, because there are large communities and networks for game devs to find each other in this way, it is one thing to find someone, it's another thing to kind of have a reliable, healthy relationship with that person. In this house, it should be relatively more easy, like, because I see you every day, and if we work together and you don't do your work, you have to see my face every day and know my disappointment. But if you are halfway across the globe, that's a little bit more difficult to kind of manage that relationship. So yeah, it's just difficult.
What will you do now after Spelkollektivet?
Well, I'm going to study philosophy, take a bachelor, then a master, hopefully at some point a PhD in philosophy. But along the way I will be developing game and will be part of the games industry to some level. At some point this game will be released. Maybe it will be my bachelor degree, like my bachelor work thing at the end of the bachelor. That will be dissertation, it's called. That's it might involve this game.
Where are you gonna do that? In Norway or?
I'm going to do it in Norway, yes. Hopefully I will get into Oslo University, but I might end up in Bergen, which is the city that always rains. It's also where Ørjan is from. Yes.
A question from the chat. Have you read existential comics?
Yes, I have read a lot of it, yes. So yeah, it's a very famous comic online. The people who make the comic are basically anarchists, but they make very interesting comic, which like good fidelity, lots of humor, and lots of deep ideas.
You said that you never finished a game. Have you ever thought about just making a small game and finishing it?
Well, that's the thing, right? I'm not a game dev, I'm a philosopher who makes games. And so could I do that? Probably, but what I want to do is to make an experience that that I would be proud of. And if I didn't use enough time on a game, I would probably not be that proud of it. And so I wouldn't have the motivation to make it, and I might even spend more time on that little thing than on the main project that I'm trying to make. So, yeah, but I've had the opportunity to observe a lot of you do deliver games, release them, and so hopefully that experience will help me a little bit in the future.
Do you plan on like releasing it commercially and like trying to make a company from that?
I already have a company. Actually, I have two companies, and I have an investor, an angel investor for that company. But it is So I already have the company, and yes, it will be commercially released. And I do hope to someday make a great success, because as I said, I want to be part of the games industry. But we'll see how it goes. Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, it's like something with how do you think Spelkollektivet helped you improve, or something like this.
Yes, the Spelkollektivet did help me by, well, it's just 1,000 little small things. It's like there's no one moment that defines everything, but definitely the talks I've had with Oak and Linnea have been very interesting. Of course, they made a success themselves, and I was there. I was watching them in real time. I was sitting next to them while they were doing it, and that was very fun. I talked to Linnea about how do you make a game, like how do you proceed to make a game, because now they are making a new game, of course. And the talk that I had with them was very fruitful, very useful. Like that's where I kind of got into this idea about you need to have the resources to make the game that you want to make in order to be able to kind of do it efficiently, and also like the motivational part. I kind of like used what they told me about and reflected upon my own situation with that, and I come to the conclusion that that's a new way I have to think about it. No more questions? All right.